So one of the biggest stories in the NFL offseason was the Deshaun Watson traded from Houston to the Cleveland Browns. And this week he was brought out uh, before the media was introduced, got his jersey, his number. He talked a little while about what he hopes to bring to Cleveland and what he's done in the past a little bit and how he wants to move on from those. And regardless of what you think about Deshaun Watson in his personal life, we're going to talk about what he's done on the field and what that could translate into a dynasty production. So it's good for him for getting the trade out of Houston. Good for him for getting the money that he got. And what's going to be interesting with this going forward is what is Cleveland going to do with Baker Mayfield as well? Because he's still there. He's still the starter. There's a lot of possibilities that they could do with him. I mean, I doubt they're going to just let him go at the end of the season. Just use him as an insurance for this year. And, most likely Deshaun will probably get suspended for at least 6 games, if not more, maybe a little less. But at least 6, you'd figure that he's going to be suspended for. So they might be thinking, well, let's keep Baker for that. Then we can let him go or try to trade him once Deshaun comes back and there's still that trading deadline. There's a lot going on with that. But Baker is definitely going to be moved on. So when we look at Deshaun and what he's done, starting in 2017 when he just only played 6 games. He started 6 games. He still finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year. He had a really good rookie season, came out, and he just progressed. 16 games, 11-5. 15 games, 10-5. But 2020, he did drop off 4-12, his record, but he still led the league in passing that year. 4,823 yards and a 4-12 record. It wasn't all his fault. He was out there doing what he needed to do. He was producing at a high level. He made it to the Pro Bowl the 3 years, 2018, 2019, 2020. So he's done what he had to do. So let's take that into context. If you take his 2020 and put it up against last year, Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, and Patrick Mahomes. Those are the only other 4 quarterbacks who threw for more yardage than him. And he was right up there with touchdowns as well, with 33 touchdowns, with those guys getting in the 30s and the 40s. And that's with an extra game for this season and, better teams. They were obviously on better teams. I mean, he even beat out Aaron Rodgers, the MVP of the league. He would have beaten out in terms of yardage and what he threw for. So what about rushing? We know that he had some good runs. He was a mobile quarterback. Well, again, if you take his 2020 season and compared it to last season and what the guys did last year, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen were the only other guys who did more rushing yardage than he did. And he was even up there with in terms of the same as touchdowns as well in rushing. So Hurts, Jackson, Allen. I mean, when you think about where he is in his stats, and you take 2020, his last time playing, and put it into what it could have been last year, and the group of quarterbacks that he is in shows what kind of potential he has and why Cleveland made that trade. Why they went for him, why they went all in, because he is, as we can see, a top 5 quarterback in real life. So how did that translate to fantasy? Well, Pro Football Focus broke it down nicely, and he was tied for 4th in quarterbacks. In 2018, he was number 3. In 2019, he was number 6. In 2020, in the 22 averaging points, is the third highest compared to Mahomes and Herbert, Justin Herbert. So I mean, it shows you how good Justin Herbert's been doing too, just in his 2 years and how much he's jumped. So when we look at what Deshaun Watson brings, not only in real life, but in fantasy, where the worst he's done is sixth, you're going to want him on your team. Now, granted, this year it might be a wash. He might not live up to the potential of those statistics that we just talked about this season. But you see the history. You see how he was building. Cleveland is a better team than Houston was. They have a better offensive line. They know how to run the ball. Deshaun Watson can throw the ball with the best of them. He's got Amari Cooper now. They're going to add another another wide receiver. They might even sign Landry back. So these are guys that they're going to bring in. They have the offense. They have the weapons around him. He is going to explode. So when we go to draft him, Josh Allen is probably your number one right now. I mean, if you really honestly look at it, Josh Allen is probably your number one in Dynasty quarterbacks. Now, whether or not you go Mahomes, Herbert, Watson, Herbert, Mahomes, Watson, Herbert, Watson is in that top five. He, in that production, what we've seen in the past, what we're seeing now, his production is in the top five quarterbacks. And he's still young. He's going to be 27 at the beginning of the season. That's a young for a quarterback. He's still in his prime. You're going to want him on your team. Now, regardless of what you think about in his personal life, that might not make you want him on your team, but just sheer numbers and what he can do in terms of passing, in terms of running, this is a guy that checks all the boxes. You want him on your Dynasty team. Either you try to trade for him if you can. Maybe somebody just doesn't like him. He doesn't like Cleveland. They don't think he's going to fit in. Go after it. Give up a little bit more just to get that, because you see the numbers that he's putting up. If you're in a redraft, not a redraft, if you're in a startup, unless you're picking number 10, but if you're in that top 5, top even 7, some guys might overlook him. That's somebody you can really focus in on, hone in on, and if you get him, you could get a really big stud. History shows that. So again, this season might not be that, but going forward, 2023, 2024, 2025, going forward, that could be where he makes the progress.